Hello, and welcome back to How to Connect with Humans, which is our series. And we are on episode
8.
8. Can you believe it? 8. We're sitting here saying, like, we can't believe we're going to start doing a series like 9 weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
And so, episode 8. Episode 8 is called The Sacred Observer, Being of Service. And we have somebody we love so much. He's been with us since the absolute beginning of our relationship and our first steps around the principles. And when I think of Steve, I think he's a bath of love. It's just being surrounded by the most amazing love you can imagine. That absolutely no judgment, no, like his face is always open to see who you are, and that's for me like the best introduction I can give about Steve. So
Yeah, for me, Steve he's the first person that actually, for me, was one of the first people that I actually understood the principles from. I remember having my first ever introduction to the principles through Elsie Spittle. And I think because it was the first time, it was kind of like, oh, okay, I don't really understand this. But for me, Steve had this way with words that kind of just resonated with me. And it was just incredibly beautiful. For those of you that don't know, Steve has got or has had a podcast called Men Behaving Kindly, which I remember when I read that on your bio, Steve, it really made me laugh. And I was just like, that is amazing. That is so beautiful. And yeah,
so we are very honored.
Absolutely.
Also somebody that it took less than 1 second to say, yes, of course I would like to be there. And so we're very honored to have you here. Hello, Stephen, very welcome. How are you?
How do I follow that? I think every time I go to do a talk, you guys have got to come and introduce me.
Okay.
Thank you. I do remember those moments of meeting you guys for the first time, and actually it was in Wayne's, that what we went to your home, and had a home group in your conservatory, and for me, when I look back on my kind of journey of the principles, they were the special moments, because there was when you were speaking there, I felt very humbled that people could see me in such a way. But I also know that you can see that in me because it's in you. And I saw that from the get-go with you guys. So that's how it was exciting for me and for Tony to actually go and have those gatherings with you. And I didn't realize at that time when that I was the kind of first person. So after dear Elsie.
Yeah, as I said, it was the way you spoke. You didn't complicate things, you simplified things. And because at that point I was trying to intellectualize everything, I think for you, you just you simplified everything and you slowed everything down. And you didn't really have to say much. It was the way you said it. And it was just the way you said it. It was so peaceful and so loving. And you didn't have any agenda. Which for me, it was just so beautiful just to not have to get it, whatever this is. It was just an incredible group, an incredible session.
I love that, what you just said there, because it's something that I always like to share with people, that, especially for those who are kind of around the principles, that it, it, it's our human nature to try to understand and to make sense and so on. Where I kind of say to people, it doesn't matter if you don't understand a word that we're saying tonight. I love how you guys have shared that, especially you, Wayne, by the feeling that you were feeling. That's the true nature of what we're pointing to through these calls, is not an intellectual understanding, but more looking at where our nature of understanding brings understanding to the moment. And for me, that was very different it's interesting because I didn't know those things, but when I heard you speak, it was like, gosh, I remember me being a little bit like that I, all my life, have been a searcher. There was always something that I needed to learn to help me be, as my background in psychology, then I needed to learn something more to be of better service and to be helping people and doing everything. And of course, now I see that when I was doing that, I was denying myself the luxury of knowing that everything I was looking for is already inside. And I didn't realize that I was kind of cheating myself out of that. And I think innocently we've all done that. I think our psychology is been based through the years as in problem solving, fixing out, being the best, being the big. And then I think bit by bit we wake out of that psychological numbness and we see, there's something more to life. There's something more to me. And that's where I like to get curious with people, because it's like wisdom or spiritual nature knocking on the door or the window. And sometimes it shouts through the litter box, and sometimes it gently just taps us on the shoulder. But that moment of waking up is such a beautiful thing for people, because life is never the same again once they feel what is truly the nature of all things inside of us. And that, for me, that was my flip side of coming from someone who loved having the Mary Poppins bag of experiences and trainings and exercises and everything to do, to then being told that, no, you don't need any of them. I was like, how very dare you? Of course I need them. How are people going to get well? And then to actually realize that wellness is an essence that cannot be damaged or broken inside of us. And all the years that I've studied psychology, I was never told about the wellness of someone. It was the sickness of someone to address. Now I see the wellness already in someone and listen for that. I started a new client last night who was had really traumatic experiences. And the joy of just being able to sit, to listen to where the light of her nature was shining through. And what I mean by that is that light is where there's no psychological numbness. And that's the innate wellness of every single person on this call and every single person on this planet, every animal, every tree, every bird, everything. That the great is what Sydney Banks, who uncovered the principles, would say, the great isness business. It knows what it's creating, but our intellect kind of filters and, yeah, I know what it's meaning. But what I recognized, like on my moment on Salt Spring, was that there is a place inside every single one of us where we don't have to make anything up. We don't have to be the bigger, the better. We don't have to have outside influences to make us. Now, don't get me wrong, it's nice having a nice home, a nice car, nice clothes. That's not what I'm talking about. But I noticed that I played the game of allowing those things to define me. And what I recognized in that moment, that when I, for a second or so, dropped out of Steve the personality and felt my nature to what Sid was saying, not what Sydney Banks saw, but my way of it. And that's what I loved in that moment, because still to this moment, I haven't got a clue what Elsie Spittle was saying, but yet my world turned around completely. So I love Wayne, to hear that that was your experience from listening, because that was nothing to do with me, but everything to do with you. You were hearing from a place beyond Wayne in that moment. That's what Sid saw, or this is what I saw that Sid saw. Some people might be, no, he didn't see that, but this is what I saw. And this is what I love about what we call the three principles. I don't know if there's been anything else that I've studied or looked at that it works or brings an understanding to us in such a simplistic way. And even to see the moments of where we try to make it complicated is very beautiful to see when we realize that we are that person or energy. It creates all our experiences. All the thinking that we do is created by us, which I didn't like at the beginning, because it's like, oh, okay, so I have to take more responsibility then. And of course, when I actually saw that there is so much freedom in being responsible for every thought, then I just didn't invest in the thoughts that were repetitive and unhealthy. Because I felt inside of me, well, actually, there was something I'd say to you, I'd like to start off with this because I've called it, we had a little bit of a joke, which I will share, on that. I called it the Sacred Observer. And just before, half hour before I came online, my glasses broke. And I was like, okay, do I wear the glasses? I don't. And it's so funny because you've called it the Sacred Observer and you cannot see. So, which I can, but for reading, I want this. But I when I had looked at the Sacred Observer, I looked at the dictionary to see what it kind of says. And the dictionary says sacredness is a quality of being considered holy or deserving of respect. It's a quality of being considered holy or deserving of respect. Every single person on this call is sacredness in action. Every single person on this planet is sacredness in action. And I'll go back to what I said on Salt Spring. I saw that there is a place that I'll call sacredness where we don't have to play the game of life. Yet we get to see from a sacred, holy place that we are deserving of respect from self. And when we give that self-respect, or if we feel self-respect coming through us, I can't tell you what that looks like or feels like, but you will know it when you feel it. And that is the beautiful thing about this, because my thinking before, well, what does it look like? What does it feel like? I need to know, because how am I going to tell somebody else about it? But what you just saw there is what I loved, is that was, what, maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when you had that experience?
I think it was, about 7 years ago. Yeah.
And so I didn't know that until those moments that you shared. So that, for me, what I hear is that you're searching in that moment. It stopped. That quiet stillness inside, let's call it wisdom, has slowed your thinking down enough. Opened you out of maybe the illusion of your thinking and whispered something beautiful. And I don't know what that something beautiful is, because it's not a language, it's a feeling. But when it speaks to us, the reason why it makes sense is because it's truly who we are. And when you try to explain it to someone, it's undescribable. Sid's nearest was, it's the great isness business. And at the beginning, when he would say that, I'd be like, oh my God, why is he saying that? But now I know, it's like, I can't really explain it for you. I can point to what it looks like for me. But please, just because it comes from me, don't make it your truth. Your truth can only be felt inside of you. Some words you might hear might be, that kind of resonates. But the moment you try to live it because I've said it, then you're just living someone else's truth. And before we came online, I was saying to the guys that that's one of the first things I loved when I heard Sid speak, when he says, do not be a follower. Listen to the sacredness inside of yourself. And from that sacredness, you get to observe life as it's lifing itself through you. We are a spiritual being having a human experience. We would not have any human identity if we didn't have that energy of life that connects to everything. My growing up, I had a fascination. Even though I had a religion I was born into, I loved the more traditional cultures of Native people. And the older I got and started saying, well, actually, everything had a sacredness. They honored every single thing. They worked with everything. Everything on Mother Earth was grown for a reason. There was a harmony there that they understood. And that always fascinated me. I didn't understand it because I wasn't living in those times. But what I got to see was that the same wisdom that governed them governs us now. And what I started seeing is where everything to me looked like it was set, that everything is illusion in that setness. Because the only time that we think about something is in the moment. So I could say to anybody here, think of something that happened 4 years ago. Maybe the first thing is, oh God, what was 4 years ago? What was that again? And okay, so what about it? Immediately we start the thinking process, the detective work to try to understand. And that, I'm not saying that's wrong, but we get to see where we take our thinking so much detail and how we add so much more thinking to it. Now that sacredness is allowing it to do it. So as long as we just say, oh, my mind's just me busy, my mind's just doing what my mind does, then we seem to be more clear. Well, the other way I was seeing, I was talking to someone the other day and this came to me and they weren't quite understanding the role of thought. So what came to me was I asked them, did they have a mobile phone, a cell phone? And they said, yes. And I said, right. I say, so how does it know how to work? And they were like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, how does it work? Well, I don't know. It comes with all the right settings in it. I says, okay. So tell me about those settings. Well, I don't know all about the settings. I just know it works. I says, maybe we are the same way. Maybe we come with a perfect design to be human, with the right, everything that we need inside of us to experience the nature of all things. And maybe we download too many apps, too much thinking. And in that downloading, it takes us away from the sacredness, the divine nature of who we are. And I say maybe because I don't know if that's truly true for you. But in this moment, it feels true for me. And that's all we're ever doing, is living moment to moment. There is no blocks. It just looks in our human conditioning like we are. Everything looks so solid in our humanness. And I think there's fun in that, but it's when we take it serious, we end up things like anxiety, stress. Because the way things worked maybe before, they will never work that way again. It just looks like it does. Our nature is so flitting in itself. When we look out and see something outside a window, we'll never look at the same thing. Something else will catch your eye and something else. When I look out now, there's no birds there, but in a minute a bird could fly by, so immediately it's a different picture. So our thinking is constantly moving and flowing, and only stops when we have overthinking there. But it doesn't stop as in we're no longer sacred. It doesn't stop that we're no longer deserving of love in the moment. It just looks like it is that way. So when I came up with this, to me, we are already built with sacredness already inside of us. And I'll say again, sacredness is that we are deserving. There's a quality of being considered holy or deserving of respect. And I think respect to me is honoring. Honoring ourselves, even those moments when we do get lost in our thinking. I've changed my language from good or bad, because immediately when I hear bad, there's a backstory of everything that was bad. It comes flooding into my experience. So I've got to see that. And I more times do that now than I don't. I can't say I never do it or I'll never do it again. But knowing where my experience is coming from, I know that when I'm not in a place of respecting myself, that will move along. That's how we're designed, to move along. It's like, have you ever stood at the ocean and watched the storm? And it's twirling around in every direction. And anything from 4 to 6 feet under that storm is the same ocean, completely still. Doing two different things. Nature doing two different things. We are designed the same way. Just because our thinking takes us into whatever upheaval and everything looks so real and the world looks so horrible and I want to get off, that storm is going to blow away, because that's the nature of storms. It doesn't stay on that part of the ocean. And I was saying this to someone a while back, and she says, well, yes, I worked on cruise ships. And I say, so what happens then when the captain knows that there's a storm ahead? Well, we go in a different direction. And I says, okay, so we have inside of our sacredness that we get to know what feels right and what doesn't. And we know to maneuver ourselves in a slightly different direction so that we don't experience. There is a natural wisdom always at play inside of us. And when we give it the grace to be listened to, then we see that being of service begins with self. That was something on my moment in Salt Spring that I realized that I'd never done. I had my moments, yes, of appreciating me and doing me, but when we see that service starts with self. And the moment that we see that these three beautiful principles are spiritual gifts that allow us to be sacred in the moment, where thinking drops and consciousness breathes a new reality through us with grace. And the moment our life begins again, or it looks like we're in a new setting, new beginning, even though everything out here still looks the same. So one of the things we had said was that when we'd met all those years ago, gosh, if we'd have known where we are now. So even projecting ourselves into the future is a waste of time, because we don't know. All we really have is the sacredness of the moment, where our wisdom, and Sid, I don't know if this is exactly what he said, but it's along these lines, is wisdom is the purity of thought before the contamination of any human experience. When I first heard that, it was like, that's double Dutch. That just doesn't make sense to me. But again, the more I walked my truth, the more that I saw that was like, when I feel that feeling, to me, it seems there's a natural slowing down. Now, I don't mean as in, oh, I'm feeling lovely and calm. Something just feels different. And from that place, I seem to light up, and I'm free from a moment from any human belief. And that moment of just having that light shine through any psychological darkness or whatever we want to call it, seems a small thing in some way. But when our spiritual energy lights us up, life will never be the same again. When we really hear who we are, that we don't define ourselves, we just wait to see who shows up. Of course, yes, I will go, come on, I'm Steve, I'm male, I'm this, I'm that, yes, and my humanness. But I'd spent so many time helping people define the ego. And then I heard Wayne Dyer say that ego is edging God out. When we get lost in our ego, we're denying who we truly are, innocently. And that's what I loved saying, because when I realized that no one was out to get me more than I was out to get myself. No one psychologically could have treated me any worse than I used to treat myself. That was a biggie. That stopped me dead. I remember what it was. It was going around the supermarket. And I was like, whoa. And then I checked to make sure that no one was listening to me, because I realized I said it out loud. So when our nature is just not, it's times when we meditate. It's walking around supermarkets. It's driving down the motorway. It's talking to friends. We are constantly sharing what's going on. And years before, I was a teacher of meditation, so I thought I had to go into a deep meditative state to see that. Now I see that we are all walking meditations. Our natural state is a walking meditation of stillness, of calmness. Or is what I was saying, I love when Sid talks about that the purity of thought is soul. The purity of mind is soul. The purity of consciousness is soul. So I was like, oh, so what does soul really mean then? I love playing with words. And then it simply came to me one of the times that sharing our universal love, SOUL, is what we're all wanting to do. I don't think we were designed to be complicated. I don't think we were designed to dislike someone because of how they looked or how they treated us. I don't think we were designed to see us in any other light than beauty, than sacred. But yet this world that we grew up on, somewhere along the line had decided something different. And that was what psychology was built on. And in its day, I reckon, yeah, it would have been great for so many people. But what I heard when Sid was really, or more Elsie, because I never met Sid in this form. But when I heard Elsie saying, he saw this would be the new psychology, I was like, yeah, right. And for those, I'm Scottish, and Sid being Scottish, so I was really interested in what he had to say, because, fellow Scots, this will be really great. And then to hear he was dead, it was like, I'm not going to go and listen to the dead. But when I started listening to Chip and Elsie, I heard or felt something inside of me which was familiar. Not in how they were saying it, but in childhood. And I know every single moment, it's more clear for us to reflect in childhood to see those moments that we're pointing to. Because children move through life much more easier. When a child is wanting something and cries and you distract it, it changes its mindset immediately. We are gifted the same way. But we forget that because we've downloaded too many apps. So what I love is what we'd said before we came on here, is when it comes to learning about our belief, our identity, our personality, our spiritual nature, it's the unlearning of who we've made ourselves to be. I always thought it was about learning more to be And to actually know it's the stripping back, it's the resting in nature. You know that feeling of when you're maybe lying on the beach, or if you're lying in nature. In the village where we live, there's old church ruins, and I'd walked up there yesterday, and there was two guys there having a picnic, and one was just lying. It's like, oh my God, that looks like the best place in the world just to be. There was not a care in the world. I don't know what they were talking about, but they looked relaxed anyway. And it's like, we don't have to have those moments just to be relaxed. We don't have to have a setting to be relaxed. That's what I hear from people when they start recognizing their nature within. So the divine nature of who we are is not something that we have to learn. It's something that we are. And divine, to me, is another word. It's very similar to sacred. When we really honor that divine inside of us, we see it's the same source that creates everything, which means that there is no separation, only in form. In our formless nature, it's the great oneness. And Sid openly said that what he saw wasn't new. How he saw it was, and how he shares, yes. But the oneness has been spoke about for many, many, many moons. But yet we've still made something to look ourselves away from the oneness. But the moment that I see the sacred in others, and that's why I gave to Wayne when he said he saw those things from what I talked about, that was nothing to do with me. His sacredness had opened up and showed him the truth of who he is. Yes, ego, I would love to. Oh yeah, I was brilliant that night, Wayne, wasn't I? But that wasn't me. That was me being still, and you being still enough to hear what was being said. Because I'm sure if we'd have asked the people in that group, so did you get that? No. But I got this. And that's the great thing about it when we start looking at that we're all creating our realities in different ways. So when we look at our personalities, oh, I like that person, I don't like this person, oh, I really like them, oh, there's none of that in the oneness. Because there isn't the human conditioning. Which means that from that place, to realize that in our spiritual nature, because it's formless in nature, it's a bit like me punching this piece of air right in front of me and saying, I've just damaged it. It's impossible. So our nature of who we truly are can never be damaged or broken, which means that our truest form, there is no psychological damage there. And if we start seeing the sacredness in that and what it truly means to us, and allowing that sacredness to come up into and through our five senses, then everything that we see, hear, touch, smell will have a sacredness. Not the same. That's the illusion that we get lost in. It looked like this the last time. It must look like it this time. It will never be the same. Just like looking at the window, there isn't a bird flying now, but there was before. What's that about? So it lets us know that life is not solid. Our thinking is never meant to be block of ice. It's meant to have a flow like the river. And when we look upstream, we see where wisdom comes from. And we see that it actually bathes us, it supports us, it cleanses us, it brings us back to the moment. And then we get to see what's sacred. Then that moves us from that space. I remember someone saying to me at the beginning, God, this sounds so passive. And I was like, yeah, it does to form. It does to our thinking. It's like, so you just lay back and it's like, I've been much more assertive in my life and moved in ways that Steve and his thinking, I can't do that. And I've done it before. I've known it. So when we start seeing how light our nature really is, and we step into that lightness, it's like the universe also aligns itself to that. Because where we look and where we put our attention is the experience we will get. So if I look around here and I think, oh my God, that person's on again and they give me a hard time the last time, I don't like them being on my talks, then I'm going to get the experience where I got the last time. Because that's what thinking and consciousness does. Now, that's still sacred in a way, but it's not the divine sacredness that I'm talking about. So that means that nothing is really bad, but it's an experience for us to learn. That's what the principles are. They allow us to see, if I am the creator of all my experiences, and that's true for everyone, then I don't have to sort anyone out. Everyone's capable, when we see the sacredness, of being in the moment. So as someone in my life, it became very different. In my relationships, it becomes very different. In my work, it's very different. I couldn't work traditionally as a psychotherapist anymore. I let a lot of clients go because they wanted traditional. And it was like, I can't see you for months and months and months on end. I just can't do that to you. To actually, and when I went out to Salt Spring, I was in the middle of taking a refresher in my psychotherapy training. And it was like, it was so bizarre learning about all these concepts and ideas of how we're all put into boxes. And then seeing actually the box is the illusion. Or made up thinking is the illusion because it only matters in the moment. And then it changes. So anything that happened 4 years ago or when we were 14 is not real until we think it. That's how powerful and beautiful thought is. But from the observer and the sacredness inside of us, then we can realize that, it's coming into my experience. I'm feeling the same tension again, that we don't have to have that experience again. We can see that we're only dreaming it into experience. It's not happening right now. It's not happening right now. Only inner thinking. That's, to me, what I loved seeing right at the beginning and even now. That I don't know if I call them the principles all the time now. It's just, this is the design of how life works. And there is perfection in the design, which means that inside of me as a perfection, it's working for my highest good and benefit. And if I get the hell of my personality out the way, I get to experience it more present in the moment. But I know, because I'm human, that it won't always get out the way. And at those moments, that's when I would give myself a difficult time. That's when I would live in a state of anxiousness and verging on depression too. And then to realize it's like, as a therapist, I would crucify myself and my thinking. How can I be this way and see other people? I'm a hypocrite. And so all the stories that I would tell myself. And now I saw that when I worked with people, I always honored sacredness. Steve did get out of the way. And I'm sure anybody here on this call, have you ever hung out, even if you're not working in a coaching or a therapeutic way, have you ever sat with someone and had such a wonderful conversation and you've looked and like 2 hours, 3 hours have gone by and it's like, how did that happen? Because thinking wasn't too present. Personal thinking wasn't too present. So we can actually see more in our daily life love in action. We can see that connection more than not. And this is the world that when we start seeing that life is truly inside out rather than outside in, we see that things don't happen to us, they happen through us. When something would happen, oh my God, not that again. That's another less thing I have to learn. It is if I think, because where I put my attention is the experience that I will get. So if I think that life is horrible and everybody's out to get me, it will look like life is horrible and everybody's out to get me. Because consciousness will give me the feeling state of what I'm thinking. Again, there is still a sacredness in that, but I don't think I'm deserving of treating myself horribly. That's not what I'm saying. I'm deserving of seeing the light of truth within, wisdom shining through to let me know a change of mind comes from a change of heart. Whether I always thought that I had to be the one that changed it all, but no, real change comes. And the heart we use as a metaphor. It's within you. It's within you. We are part of the great design. We've took this form, and it is Steve. I have a dog. She's took the form. The love, unconditional love from that pup is unbelievable. And she sees people when I walk down the street. She's 7 now, and you walk down the street, and I'll say to her, "Good morning." She's like, "Who am I saying good morning to?" She's just so excited. It's like, "I love you. I love you." She doesn't know what it's like not to love. So when I say this, I mean the spiritual, of course, but I want to be more dog. It's like, I really want to be more like her. Because she's my teacher in that moment. It's like, I'm kind of, oh, do I cross the road? Did they cross the road? Or what? Where she's just like, oh, people, hi, how are you? And it's like, as children, we would be the same until we learn or we're taught not to be. But innocently, and I love that word when I heard someone say that, innocently, that's all we knew. We can only work from the level of consciousness and our understanding at that moment. But because consciousness changes, and the beautiful thing about it, that's what I would have said has happened again to Wayne in that moment. Consciousness woke him up in such a way, something shifted, and he would have risen consciousness. And that's why we have a new advantage point where we'll never see life again the same way. We will see it, of course, because we are thinkers, but we won't see it in the same way. Have you ever noticed that, anyone? And something that may have caused you pain, and you look at it and it's like, that's not got the same reaction. And I remember one of the days trying to give myself the same reaction, and I couldn't. And I got so angry at myself that I couldn't get myself pissed off to experience. And it's like, this really is true. That's what I saw in those moments. Because in psychology, we were taught to analyze everything. And even from school, I guess, we're asked to do everything. But life is one big school, I think. But you're the one grading. You're the one that determines, do I get a gold star? Or am I going to have the D on my cap and go and sit in the corner facing the wall? We take ourselves through all those experiences. And remember, it's just on the level of consciousness that you are at that moment. This is not about, I need to be perfect. I can't have a negative or bad thought ever again. Good luck with that one. But it's seeing that when we have a thought, it's not helpful. The more we steer ourselves away from the storm, or just, I can't change this, but the storm's going to move on. I don't know when it's going to move on, but it will. Having that faith and the design of who you are, to me, I've seen as enough. And then knowing that if it isn't, where do I go to? Where do I go to from that? So I will call someone, I'll call one of my friends up who has the same understanding and actually say, I'm not seeing clearly. Whether before, I can't do that. They'll think I'm a fake. And it's like, okay, if I'm thinking that, then I got to be careful, because the first time we think something, it's just something that we're thinking. But the second time we think it, it straps itself and there's a belief system. And that's defining the rest of our life. And what we see is after a while of them happening, a fist happens. And psychologically, we end up hurting ourselves. Insight opens. Insight from within opens us to the newness of a new beginning. I don't know how that happens for you, but I know we all use the principles to do it. And that's the beautiful thing, that it kind of looks like, well, it's this way. All we've ever got is pointers of, it looks like this is how life works. And one of the things we were saying before we came on air was the fact of like the joy of just knowing that I get to do it my way. And I know that the perfection in my design will let me know when I'm off key. My feelings will let me know when I'm off key. When I'm not doing something, maybe in a way it's going to be helpful, something will come in and let me know. A feeling will let me know it's not right. And it's at that moment we can step back and just see where the experience takes us. Sometimes we just push ahead and have a day of not being right. And it's just seeing that that's the, you know what I mean, that's life. It's when we flatlined, I think that's when we're dead. The form's no longer the form. So why we're still in here, we're going to be up and down. But it becomes more of graceful when we see that there will be consciousness going up and down, and not to get lost in the downness, and knowing that that consciousness, again, like thought, never stays still, so it will constantly move. And we would reach to obtain happiness, and I need to get like 100% happiness. We might have not called it, but that's what we were aiming for. We cannot be 100% happiness and stay that way. It's not the design. Just the same as we cannot be 10% happiness and stay down there. We will bounce up again. You know, like a beach ball, you push it into the water. What happens when you let the beach ball go? Pops up. When we don't hold our thinking down, the nature of who we are rises. That fascinates me, because I still see that happening for me. Now, I think I know how it works, and then I see that I don't. I only thought I did, and I love that now. That we don't have to know it all, yet in our essence we do. We know everything that we need, and it will come into our consciousness at exactly the right time to serve us. How great is that? That the design of who we are will give to us everything that we need in the moment. If we just listen and allow that feeling to light us up. So on that,
Oh, Steve. Oh. You know, when I describe you as being in this bath of love, thank you so much for everything you shared with us. When somebody is willing to turn up, like your dog, sort of like when somebody's willing to turn up and just completely see who you really are, without, as you were saying, like without Steve in the middle, like, or Caroline in the middle, or Wayne in the middle, you know, we have preferences, and we're human beings and we're informed, but behind all that, there's somebody that if we get curious enough and loving enough, we get to know, regardless of even our preferences. So regardless of whatever their ethnicity, their religion, their gender, their sexual preferences, their nationality. So, and that's the beauty of the connection that I think you have showed us from the beginning, and then we soon learn to start being more puppy-like. So we may have to change this series to how to become a puppy more like. It's really how to connect with humans, because once you sort of like get undressed of everything,
yeah,
that's what's there. It's just human beings. And
yeah, absolutely. And that's why the being of service is that there's so much comes in that. But I believe every single person on this call and who will listen, and I think actually everyone globally in some shape or form is designed to be of service, to all walk each other home. Because we're all the same energy in different disguises. So I love that Shona, who's my little dog, is when I go downstairs to see her, it'll be like she's not seen me for years. And it's just that I might have told her didn't tell her off, but even at moments when you tell her off, it's like she forgets it. Or she might have a little bit of a look just to, I don't know what she's thinking because I don't really think dog. But it's like she just has a little bit of apprehension. But as soon as you say, hey, it's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you for ages. And it's just that willingness to be in the moment. Because I guess they don't have the same intellectual. She's very bright, very, very clever, but she doesn't have the ego in the way that we do. That's a beautiful thing. So the being of service is, I love what you said there. I did hit on it, is that being of service is to service first. That's what I realized that moment when I dropped out of Steve, was that I hadn't been of service to myself. And that my experience went from this to this. The bandwidth of experience changed. I had more light to play with. So being of service to others is so much more easier now. That I even changed it from being a psychotherapist to mentor. Because a mentor relationship is to me is saying, I don't know any better than you. Perhaps I maybe from where I am in my consciousness right now, maybe I've seen something. I don't know more than you. But it's been curious of, where is that love in you? Where is Shona inside of you? Where is that, maybe where you've forgotten to see the delight in every moment? It's still there, hasn't gone anywhere. But maybe we've looked in a different direction. And it really is that simple. We're as simple as Shona. All we want to do is love and be loved in return. Imagine living life that way. I mean, truly love is to just be in that moment of, it's what you say, is not seeing anything other than yourself. And your true reflection coming back at you. Then something begins to happen. Words that we speak seem to be different. They seem to be fresh. I mean, it's like, I remember when I used the word insight, it's like I thought that once I had it, that was it. But I've seen insight on insight on insight. And it's like, oh my goodness, we're all designed to see life fresh from inside. It doesn't have to be complicated when we think about it. We're all designed to see life fresh. And it doesn't matter what age you are. We're all this gift. That's what I love about it. You know, we're never too old to unlearn who we are. And that's what I love.
We absolutely love you.
Love you too.
So I think it would be lovely to hear if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I'd love that too.
So just you can unmute yourselves, or you can raise the hand, or you can just write it on the chat. You would see. There you go, Michelle.
First of all, I want to say thank you. I am so, so grateful that I found you. And Steve, I think you're amazing. And
you too.
What you said about when you had your wow moment, I've had mine now, literally in the last hour. And it's almost like how do I describe it? It's almost indescribable, the journey that I've been on. And that sounds like a bit of a cliche, but who cares what it sounds like. When you were talking, I had so many light bulb moments. I've recently, or literally, have just finished a Deepak Chopra 21-day meditation challenge, and it has been the most amazing thing I think I've ever done, apart from being on this call, whatever you want to call it, because my self-awareness has grown and I've had so many insights, and I think I don't know, I think it's what the way you described it was, Steve got out the way, I've got out the way of myself, and it's just the most indescribable feeling of just love. Oh, bless your heart. I didn't mean to upset you. Well, no, I haven't upset you. You're crying tears of joy. I just, this was obviously, that I feel the universe is always moving you forward, always. And I've really been through a bit of a hectic time. Listen to me. That's what my human form is calling it. But I had a moment today where I thought of a phrase that I heard during one of the Deepak Chopra meditation tasks, and it was, "This too shall pass."
Yeah.
And that is for me, it's such an incredible thing to just keep reminding myself of, because, as you described, our lives are ups and downs, and we do, as a human, live a life of duality. But I think if you can always keep that "this too shall pass" in your mind, whether it's, moments of joy, moments of sadness, whatever it might be, there's always that. I've just got this, I honestly can't describe it. I've got this feeling inside of me now that's just, yeah, wow. That's all I can say. And I'm so grateful, because I feel like I've found my home, my spiritual home. And I've been open to spirituality for a long time, because my mum, bless her, who passed away last March, she's still around me the whole time. And my dad, she was a medium, a spiritual medium. And when she first got involved in it all, I thought, oh my goodness, she's got involved in some sort of cult. But when I started to understand it more, I realized what was going on. And I think that, and when she passed away, lots of what felt like weird things were happening to me. But I realize now that was the start of my opening. I consider myself to have always been a really loving and compassionate person, but that has grown immeasurably in the last few days. And today, the way you described it, it's just the way I felt. And I honestly, like you've said, I don't know how to express it, because it's probably different for everybody, but all of a sudden I feel as light as a feather. And just thank you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, wrapped with love. I am so grateful to you for sharing everything, all of you. I'm honestly, I'm going to shut up now, because otherwise I'm going to start getting all a bit like you and start crying happy tears. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just, again, want to say to you that everything that you're feeling is you, the true you.
Yeah.
And thank you for being in a space to hear what was being shared. So I
Yeah,
honor the
same
sacredness
to
in
you.
you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I've got happy tears.
Bless you.
Because the fact that you sort of just found this and you found us, and you know, if we do 2000 or whatever episodes now, this is the age one. And one person hears something that can help them or change their lives, or you know, you came in with so much love since we started this call, and oh, Michelle, you're so beautiful. It's just, I feel like I just found somebody in my family I didn't know. It's like
Right, that's me. I'm gone. Tears are coming. Thank you. But I feel the same. I feel that, and I know that's what the call is about, but I feel that connectedness. I really do. And you know, I've known about the oneness, but to experience it today, the way I've experienced it on, you know, during this period of time, has just been an absolute joy. It really has. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Does anybody else have a question or a reflection or something that you would like to share with us? So feel free to mute yourself or.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
I'd just like to say how much I really enjoyed this session. It's been wonderful. And I can relate to so many things you say. And I channel daily, and it's all the principles, right? But the words that you use today are the words that are coming through my channeling every day. And I have my own perception, feeling about them. But this has gone to another level today after listening to you. So thank you so much. It's been lovely.
I say again, thank you. I just love, you know, when I left Salt, I went to Salt Spring not wanting to hear. Wisdom had its way. Despite my ego not wanting to be there and do things, wisdom had its way. Through Tony, knowing I always wanted to go to Canada. I had the itinerary of whale watching. There's the First Nations part of the island. I was going there. And the first night they had the meet and greet. I don't know if they still do it the same now, but they had the meet and the greet. And you know when you've laughed so hard, it's like, well, you just stop because your gums are sore. And these were people just enjoying life. There was nothing specific. There was nothing from Chip and Elsie. It was just laughter. People full of life and love. And I got into bed and the tears rolled down my face. And the words I heard was, I've forgotten how to laugh. That was my first little, I had forgotten, I'd become so serious that I had forgotten to laugh. Of course I laughed, but I laughed that I ached. It was like, oh no, I need to go back to the hotel room now. That kind of laugh. And then the next morning, is what I'd said earlier before. I don't know what Chip and Elsie had said, but something went off inside of me. I've kind of gone on to explain it as a love bomb. That's the only way to describe it. And it moved from my feet to my head and back again. And I put my head back and I just saw, maybe I could say it was white. I don't know if it was even a color, but there was so much light that I grabbed the chair because I thought I was falling off the chair. And I wasn't, but that's what it felt like, that I was so light. And I walked up to, I thought it was going to be Chip, because I was like, okay, what's just happened there? I don't know what's just happened there, because I've meditated where I've been in the most incredible spaces, but this was even way before that. What was that about? So someone got in front of the way and got Chip, and Elsie was standing on the stage, very small stage. And I says to her, I had this, what I was going to say to her. But what came out was, Elsie, I've just had an experience and I've just come home. And I'm like, what? I can hear myself thinking. And I love her with all my heart for this, because all she said was, well, that's lovely, my dear. And wished me a good day. The reason why I loved that is because she knew that wisdom, the divine inside of me, was lighting me up in the way that it had never before. Mm-hmm. And if she overthinks it or overtalks it, personality will come back in. So I walk back to my chair, and Tony says to me, well, what did you say to Elsie? And I'm back in identity again. I'm like, what the hell did I say to Elsie? I've just come home. But each time I try to think about it, that feeling waved through me again. And I says, it doesn't matter. And my point of sharing this is that they then says to, you know, there was such a wonderful feeling here. Let's just have the rest of the day off. Now, we'd only been there about 3-4 hours. And it felt so right to have the rest of the day off. And by the time of getting my coat and walking out, and I says to Tony, I haven't got a clue what's just happened there, but I'm going to share this for the rest of my life. I didn't know what I was sharing. I share this stories because it is so beautiful to hear what's coming back. That when that divine nature speaks through you, you know it's truth. No one can tell you that truth is how you're getting it in that moment. Your whole design will let you know if you're off base. That's what consciousness is good about. If you're overthinking, you'll get the heaviness of overthinking. If you're having light thinking, you'll get the lightness. But this is even before that. And that's what I saw in that moment. What I'm very touched about on what's just been shared there is I'm thrilled for you guys too. Because to have the courage to put yourself out there and to have this feedback on something that you followed enough, like you guys, this will always have a place in my heart. Because to hear of those two things coming back, it's like, this is what it's all about. Because their lives will never be the same again. Because when you see something inside of you so light, you always know the lightness is there. Doesn't matter what else goes on. Doesn't matter if tomorrow, what happened last night, don't go searching for it. It's still there. It's inside. And I just love when we start seeing how it lights people up in different ways. But yet there's that big great oneness. The truth of nature. And it's truth, our spiritual truth, it evolves us. Not Steve, not Steve's personality. And that's the same for everyone. Whether I thought the more I meditated, the more I do this, don't get me wrong, I still have my moments of sitting. I do mindfulness. I'm actually a mindfulness teacher. Also, I trained in that. And it's like, so even in those moments, it was wonderful just to remind myself to be in the moment. But there's even a difference from when the moment reminds you. That there is nowhere to get to but the perfection of the design in the moment. And how it's showing itself to you will be different every single moment. Just like when we stand and we watch the ocean, we'll never see the same piece of ocean. It never hits the, when the ocean comes in and it hits the sand, because it goes up and down, it changes and it comes and it kisses it and it goes back out. That's like consciousness. That's like divine mind. That's like divine thought coming into us, being the sand, kissing us for a moment and then going back out again. Whether we grab the water quick, get the buckets, keep all this water, I need to keep this moment here alive. No, throw it back in. because there's more coming. That's the beautiful thing about the design of who we are. There is always more flowing. This form is designed to feel the love of the divine nature. Sid saw that so clearly. But again, what I love about these calls, when he says, do not be a follower. It's great to listen to other people, but your sacredness comes first. Because when you hear it, it's your truth. And that's what I've loved about the two feedbacks that we've had. It's not like, oh, I love when you said this bit and you did that bit. I'm going to remember that. And that's the world I used to live in before, because that's what we did. I must mark that down and paraphrase it and then read it. Oh, it doesn't make the same. How comes it made sense then and not now? Because that's not our design. That's not the naturalness of who we are. We get to play more. We get to have fun more. We get to be alive more when we see the simplicity of our design. I say again, we weren't meant to be complicated. I really, truly feel that's why I'm very comfortable with the word God, and I hope people are okay when I use that. But to me, it's divine nature. I truly believe that's why in 1973 it woke Sid up in that way. Because we were getting so far off on our do's and our don'ts that he saw it so clearly that when we listen to Sid, it's not to listen to what he's telling us, but it's where he's pointing from and to. And we get to see that for ourselves and how it plays through us. Exciting.
Thank you.
Oh, Birdie, thank you so much. Before the call, we're saying like we won't do the calls if Birdie's not here. So now she's one of our anchors on this. We're very lucky that we sort of decided to host these calls and then invite special guests. And then what happens is we open up the chat and all these teachers come through for us. And on the chat we have Dana or Dana, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, and let me know if it should be. But she has no questions, just tears of joy. Thank you. And I have next to me like the best teacher that life could have given me, and that's Wayne, because Wayne's always seen life really in a very simple way for mine, like in a beautiful, simple way. And I could see it. You
can stop me up.
But no, with your tears. I would like to know what you heard there. Is there something?
I think it's when you said, Steve, that you just see something completely different and see things. What I saw a minute ago was when Carolina and I met, I was in quite I'd probably say a dark place in my life. And we had a conversation one night, and I remember Carolina talking to me, and we were talking about different things, and we were talking about this understanding, or she was explaining this understanding to me, and I had no idea what was said that night. I still don't. But I remember waking up the next day and feeling completely different. And I love what Michelle said about coming home, because it felt like that. I felt free, I felt weightless. And for me, you've always been my best teacher. you were the first person that introduced me to this, and you're always here to kind of listen to me and to be my anchor. Whenever I'm stuck, we'll have a conversation. Wherever I'm at, whether I'm up, wherever I'm down, we'll have a conversation, and it's beautiful.
Thank you. Oh, what? Oh. Is there anybody else that wants to ask a question or share something? Or
I think Michelle's got her hand up again.
yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question, and maybe the answer's in me. Well, I'm sure it is in me. I've kind of been struggling a little bit with purpose. Just to give you a really quick background, I've not been well for some time, and although I'm still employed, and my employer have been absolutely amazing, I haven't physically worked for 3.5 years, and I know from somewhere inside me that it's not right for me to go back to that place. I guess I'm just struggling a little bit with where do I go from here, and yeah, I guess I just wanted to ask your opinion on, will that show itself? I don't really know how to explain the question. I hope you get where I'm coming from. I want to be, I know there's something inside of me that's saying, I want to be of service. I want to do something to help other people. I'm just not quite sure how to do that. And I guess I'm looking for your thoughts on how maybe that happened for you.
Do you want me to answer this, guys?
Yeah, please.
I wasn't sure. I was just waiting to see who. It's an interesting question, because there is so much to that the human mind wants to get in there and talk about. All I can do is speak about how I see it. And when we speak about the word service, when it really hit me that service is about being of service to ourselves first, then what that really means is we are the best friend that we've been looking for. We are the only friend that we truly have in our life. Everything else is our thinking about somebody else. So like you guys, what you were saying, when that best friend inside meets the other best friend of their inside, and that oneness brings us together. But to answer Michelle, it's like I remember when I was hanging out with Dicken, who I know you've had on here, and we were in the house, and it was after we'd been out to Salt Spring, and I'd say to him, Dicken, I says, what do you think of the word purpose? He says, oh, I don't. And it was very sharp, and I was like, no, you've got to give me more than that. And he says, because I find it makes it complicated for me. And I just realized that I get to know the purpose in the moment. And that was like, oh, okay. Because it didn't really land for me at that time. But the more that I've looked at it, is there a purpose for me? I've noticed that I've got lost in my thinking. Guarantee there is a purpose for every single person being on this planet. The quieter we become, the more we hear from our spiritual nature. And that's why we try to look for what our purpose is. Sometimes it's the ego, it's actually directing. Now, it's about, so if I call the ego the form and our spiritual nature the formless, it's actually seeing that they work as the best relationship ever. But somewhere along the line, ego, identity has become the devil that sits on the shoulder and the angel that sits on the shoulder as being. But of course, they're just metaphors. They're not real. It just looks like that. So what I do now, Michelle, is that when something comes up, like, so I had a call today, a business call, and I was out walking yesterday and something just landed and it was like, oh, I don't think they'll be open to that. What am I going to do? But the feeling of it just felt right. So before we had the big business call, I spoke with the colleague that I'm doing joint work with and says to him, look, I don't know where this is going to go. This has just landed for me. I'll leave it with you. We ended up getting so excited because it came together. So that feeling, Michelle, that you had, trust that. Now, one of the things that people innocently do sometimes is sit back and just wait on trusting the feeling. But if there's something that you think, oh, I'd kind of like to do that, start looking in that direction.
Okay.
Your feelings will let you know if you're off board, you are not interested, and it might just be that, oh, I'm a bit kind of scared to do that. And then just, again, rest with it. You ever, like, when you go, sometimes you have something that's troubling you, then you go to bed, and then you wake up the next morning and it's like it's not on your thinking until you think about it, and then it's all back again like the day before. It's that moment of light as it comes into our experiences is the best director. It won't tell us what to do, but it will give us the feeling. So it won't ever say, oh, Michelle, you've got to do this and you've got to do that. It will support and direct beautifully wherever we put our attention. So I found, like, for me, so I knew those guys when I lived in Brighton, and we knew that we'd met a couple who lived up north who were working in community, and part of our work of Life and Soul then was community work, working with the homeless, working mental health teams, survivors, domestic violence, and these kind of things. And the other part, as I was doing the one-to-one and doing the mentoring and so on. So we were like, oh, this will be great. And then it was like, but we love our place in Brighton. We've got a lovely little place here, lovely little community around us. We've got getting ourselves established with the principles, but the feeling just said, go. And then we get up there and we can't find a place that the both of us really want. Now, the money from Brighton prices to is like London. So we had a lot more buck for our money than what we did for up north. We could have easily got an 8-9 bedroom house with a massive training room and everything that I've dreamt of. But yet the feeling was like, no. Little did we know at that time, my mum was about to leave form. But what I'm saying is that through trusting that and not just sitting back and thinking, oh, one day it's going to show up. Someone's going to come to the door. I know where they are. Start taking steps and maybe in a direction that you think. And just see where you go. And you'll get to see the difference from an ego fear to just a little bit of a, no, that's not the direction. And that's when I was saying about playing. It's really great that we get to see the form and the formless dance as one. They always are. That's also the oneness, that we are a spiritual being having a human experience. We can't have the human experience without the spiritual energy. So if we weren't the spiritual being, there would be no human form of anything that's out there. So we have that. If it's brought us the wisdom to grow to the ages that we are now, we know it works. We just need to, well, this is quite solid, and my teeth come in, hairs come in, falling back out again. But the cycle of my design is doing what it's doing. So why wouldn't I listen to it? If it's got me this far in life through all the ups and the downs, why wouldn't I listen to it? Because it's always like the beach ball. As soon as it's gave me the signal to let go, I'm back in the moment. Consciousness is high. I'm seeing my thinking clearly. I'm not stuck in the past, and I just know where I want to go. So when I went to Salt Spring, I didn't want anything to do with the principles, he says, laughing. So we never know when we just have the lightness of spirit and just try it. So if anything comes up, it's like, yeah, just try it and just see. The only thing I would say that I spoke to a couple of people and they spent thousands just trying it. That's not what I'm saying. Just play with life, and there's a direction it seems to open up. And that might come from something that you've heard. It might be from tonight in your dream state. It might be the next morning. It could be any time. But since wisdom has woke you up and you've listened this time, I remember when the year after Salt Spring, Tony and I went back to do a fellowship with Chip and Elsie. So we spent 7 weeks with them on Salt Spring Island. And as we left the island, the last thing that Chip says, all bets are off where life will take you now. And I want to say that to you, Michelle. All bets are off. We just don't know. So that's why when we bring in, what's my purpose? I don't know, but I know you will know when you know. That's the exciting thing, is that your purpose is, I'm sure, like, we've all been of service. It's what we put onto service. It tells us where we're not. But I think that even walking down the street and smiling at someone, it might be the first. I mean, there was a lady who we see, and there's a old folks warden place behind, behind us. And there's one lady, and she'd say, "Oh, my, I'm here because my husband has dementia. We've had to move up from London to somewhere safer." Now, I'm a dementia friend, so I do training. I'm a dementia friend champion, so I help people to become dementia friends. So I kind of know the little bit of the science surrounding dementia, but I didn't put any attachment to it. And then when you're out walking, this is a year later, and I can see that she definitely has symptoms there of dementia. But her face when she sees Shona, there's no dementia in that moment. There's only love. So I've used dementia just as an example. Take that word away, we can put any other word in there, but love is love. And when we listen to that, we begin to paint the life that we want. It's like taking a black canvas and just creating what we want. That's our spiritual birthright.
Okay.
To create what we want. So have fun and just play with Michelle. You know what you don't want? Great. That's wisdom. Might be human wisdom, but it's still wisdom. And now get curious. If you don't know what you want, brilliant. Don't make it up, but just try, just go out there and maybe, oh, that sounds interesting. And just see what happens and have fun along the way. Look how wisdom guided you to this call.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you see it, and that's what I love, when we actually look back and we see, actually, when I was down in my luck, changed that way, or this happened, or that happened, then we see that we've been nourished and supported more times than what we've not.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing how life unfolds.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Thank you.
So sweet. But there, Steve, as always. And would only say, like, it's beautiful to see, like, to see Michelle in this call and to see her, like, it's just like popcorn. She just had so many insights and things, like pop, 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 and so much is going to come out of that. And what's happened for me and for us, I think, like, when I thought about purpose and what we should be doing, and it took us years to actually find a way of sharing the principles together, of sharing what we wanted, or and I had this fixed idea of how I should be working, how much I should be earning, what I should be doing, what my name should be in, and that had to collapse for me. That had to go away And as soon as that sort of went away, it was clear as day. Got up one day and just said, like, we're doing this, and that's what we're doing. And so wonder whether there's like a way you think you should be, I should be okay, 2 years and 364 days is okay for me not to be working this way. Now 3 years, I got my maximum amount of time that I'm not supposed to be working or whatever. So what I'm saying is, like, how beautiful something's got your back. Like, you probably weren't supposed to be doing what you were doing in some way. I mean, obviously we don't know what is your story, but something's got your back for you to be able to not do what you weren't supposed to do, I will guess. I don't know, you know better. And in the same way, because something's got your back, you trust that the next thing will come. We have this amazing sandpit to try and like kids, like, you're not thinking with Play-Doh, oh my gosh, is this going to be displayed in the National Art Gallery? No, you're just playing. You're just playing. You're just playing. And
thank you.
So we're really learning from you. We really do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's a great point. We're all learning from one another. When it looks like we can look like some of the other speakers that you've had on here are all incredible from where they come from and how they see life. And a lot of that is because they've been around this understanding longer. But it doesn't mean that they know more than anybody else. It just means that they've had more time of seeing and being in that space. And obviously you started off with Chip and Jan, who were my first, really, still probably my go-to people if I was going to go to, because of the simplicity. My heart remembers beautifully when I listen to them. Not what they're saying, but I remember who I am more clearly. Now, that's not about Chip and Jan, and I don't make them into, before I would have, they're my gurus, I need to do this and I need to do that. And I love them dearly, but I love them enough to know that self-love. And inevitably, when I have self-love, I love more. That's the great feedback about it. The more I love, and I'm not like, yes, I am on about honoring myself, but what I mean is truly seeing each other and the light of each moment. And when thoughts come in to tell us anything other than our brilliance, then we can see that it's just ego doing what ego does. It's just thinking doing what thinking does. Just because I think the thought, I don't have to believe it. This too shall pass. That is a beautiful thing. Even though the storm might be doing what the storm does, it's going to pass. 2 days ago, no, it wasn't actually yesterday, something went on. We had a bereavement about 3 weeks ago, and something happened the other day, and it really threw me into kind of thinking a little bit on how cold people can be sometimes. Now, that's something I had made up. It's something I was lost in thought about. And I was out the back with Shona, and the more I walked, the angrier I got. And it's like, oh my God, I forgot this is how anger feels. And I felt like I was kind of boom, boom, boom around the farmer's field. I wasn't. But it kind of felt like I was just thumping around. I thought, oh my goodness, that's what, when we get caught in our thinking, it's not really what we're thinking. It's just something's going on, and we identify it as being, I'm angry. That's a word we've made up and defined for ourselves. If we asked each other, what does anger mean? We might have similarities, but we'll also have difference. So even anger is not real. It's just something we make up. And we never feel the same anger. You add something else to it and something else to it. And then if we felt anger and fearful, fear will come in. And before we knew it, and I knew walking around there, it was almost like I kind of had this little screen that I could kind of watch. Oh my God, look what you're doing. But I knew it would pass. I didn't know when, but I knew that it would. And there's a part in when you come down one farmer's field, there's the village lane. It goes up to the other village. And then, so I have to make sure to stop, and then we cross over. And I got her to stop. She's not on her lead, so I got her to stop. And then I looked, nothing, and then we crossed. And the person who was standing on this side of the road was not the person who went to the other. And it's just a small village lane. So it's not like I had to walk 5 miles and then all of a sudden I felt better. It was just 10 steps, 20 steps, and it changed. And I bet that if I would have tried to have changed that, I'd have come home and still been feeling lost and so on. And of course, as soon as I started seeing that, I started seeing that actually it's not as horrible as what I originally thought. Because my consciousness was higher, which meant that my thinking was clearer. Thought was displaying itself on the screen of life more easy. And I didn't have to believe the thinking that I was thinking back there. Now talking about it, I have no attachment to it whatsoever. Years ago, I'd have got really back into the feeling because it would have been like at my shoulders, that feeling's back again. Now I'm going to tell you how I felt and justify the existence of lostness. I wasn't lost. I knew where I was going. I was just believing my thinking in that moment. And now when I see innocently, it's what I'll do every now and again. That's so much better than I need to change this. I need help. Knowing that if I did continually keep myself in that place, I can reach out. I'm not seeing something right now versus I need therapy. It's two different worlds. Two different worlds. There's a lightness there, I think, in all experiences. And it's just which one we decide to take.
Thank you.
I think it's like the divine energy is always creating psychological freedom. Divine energy of mind, thought, and consciousness is always creating psychological freedom. The human nature is designed, has got to beliefs, identity, concepts, separation, hate. But we can see innocently it's the feeling of hate that we don't. That was the thing when I saw that. You know, when I used to get lost in situations and think it really was coming from outside of me and that someone really was responsible for it. And then when I started seeing actually what I'm trying to get away from is the thinking that I created in the first place. So no matter what I do, I'm not going to get away from it until I see that I am the creator. In the moment that I see, well, if I create it, I can stop creating it. There's so much freedom in that design of our human beliefs and identity. And of course, that's not saying if someone decides that they want to get into counseling or want to go into coaching or go into, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I'm not saying, sorry, that's wrong, because for some people it might fit them at that time. But I love when I heard Sid say that if anybody tries to take you into the past, walk out. I was like, oh my God, I love you. the past, that when we do that, you know, and it's like, in all the years that I've done it, only ever once did I take a young guy, not back into the past, but I did a psychotherapy exercise with him. And I just knew in the moment that was the best thing to do. But even when I got in the car, and because he wouldn't leave his bedroom, he was petrified to get out of his bed. When he put his foot down in the morning, he believed there were sharks there. There was everything. He was petrified. And the first session I did with him, I sat at the top of the landing, and him still in his bed. And this was the third session, I think it was. When I thought, I got back in the car and was driving back, and I was like, oh my God, that was useless. Why did I do that? I know not to trust in that. Why have I done it? And I gave myself a really difficult time. When I go back to see him, before it was his mum answering the door, he answered the door, the biggest smile. He saw so much that week. So I got to see that when we truly trust our truth and we feel that wisdom within, it guides in ways that Steve couldn't make up, that you couldn't make up. That's what I got to see. It has an intelligence way beyond and far superior to anything that Steve could make up. It has the wisdom of the ages and the sages flowing through us. So why wouldn't we listen to that? And then that helps us look at any psychological changes that we wish to make if we do want to go to somebody else. So this is not, you don't ever have to go to. Sometimes it is nice to go and actually listen to hearing other people, but it's not listening to be them, it's to hear your own wisdom. Now I'm at the point that I don't go and listen to anything. And when I do, I thoroughly enjoy it. At the beginning, I wanted to hear everything once I'd heard. And that seems to be our human nature. We want to hear everything. We want to hear what people have got to say. But it's just where I am now. Tomorrow that could wake up and I'd want to go and see everybody. You know, I mean, it's not keeping ourselves prisoner. It's giving ourselves the luxury of knowing that thinking will change. Thought does change. We move from one blank canvas to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. Constantly changing, constantly moving, constantly evolving through our nature of truth. I just wanted to say that because I know with some people there is that thing of, oh my God, well I go to counselling, I have, and I'm not saying, if that's where your wisdom is really taking you, then if you've got someone it's truly going to allow you to be heard from inside, then you trust that. So it's not that I'm kind of poo-pooing counselling or therapy. I still, if anybody asked me what qualifications, I would say I'm a 3 principles based psychotherapist. I still love psychology and what it came up with and what it points us to. I still love psychotherapy and the aspects in it, but there's much more room to play with the 3 principles. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
It's a great story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
We're happy to go on, but I realized that we've been 2 hours into this call, and we also have borrowed Steve for another 45 minutes before that.
Yeah.
So, Steve, what would you like to do?
I think it might be because there's a beautiful feeling here.
Mm.
And one of the things is that we've been talking about the feeling. And there comes a time where we allow the thinking mind, just to be still. And you guys will know this because I know when you have a cat, that you purr like a cat. It's almost contentment. And you know when a cat purrs and you feel it, you feel it yourself. And they say that actually that's the lineage, the cat sending a signal of your vibration to you. And that's, to me, in a way, what that feeling does. That when we're all in that one vibration, then it's about, when we finish this call, not going and overthinking what we talked about tonight, but just being in that beautiful purring cat state, and just allowing it to take you through the rest of the evening, and then having a beautiful sleep and knowing that there's a new world waiting for you every moment. So I think it would be nice to, if everybody's okay with that, to because the questions have been beautiful. So thank you for asking, and thank you for all your sharing, because it really does make that collective consciousness more beautiful. And I really feel that's why we're on this earth, and why we're not all living on desert islands on our own, because we're meant to be sharing. And I hear the word that my cousin says to her kids growing up, sharing is caring, but it truly is. That when we give ourselves the grace to listen to other people, there's a caring, it comes in there. It comes from our heart with no conditions, just the simplicity of the moment. And that's what I've loved being able to share with you guys. So thank you for having me and for allowing me to share. And thank you for all your sharing coming back, because it makes it a so much more special world to be part of.
Thank you. It's been an absolutely amazing call, and it's such an honor to have you on this call, Steve, because as we've said, especially for me, my journey started in that car park that night. And we just couldn't do a series without you being here.
Oh, that's nice to know. Thank you. I was delighted you asked.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was. And I'm excited that you guys are out doing this and sharing with others, and the people that you've had on it, and I'm sure the people you'll continue to have on it. And of course, if any time if you feel, I'd be delighted to come and share with you again.
Oh. This is recorded.
Yeah.
Camera promise. So you're a delight as always. And so where can people find you?
Well, I've done away with the really interesting thing was we've done away with 3P Live Soul because we're not working under that anymore. But the easiest way, I have a Facebook page, Steve Adair Mentoring. But today I couldn't sign into it. And 2 days ago, I was talking about getting rid of that and actually doing. So I don't know if the universe is like, okay, we heard you, we're doing this now. We'll see tomorrow. It could just be, but Steve Adair Mentoring. But I also, if by chance that, I don't know if it's working, it could just be that there was a fault in the link today. It's been that kind of day, really, isn't it? If by chance you can't get onto that one, then I do have Steve Adair, just a normal Facebook page. You can message me on that. And yeah, we can have the conversation. But my work-wise, I post more on Steve Adair Mentoring. So any food for thoughts, or if I'm ever out on my walks with Shona and I've got my phone with me, then if I feel inspired to record something in the moment, I will do that. Actually, there is a little clip up there with her, so you'll see her somewhere in it. So yeah, and that's where there's more food for thoughts, where I'll advertise what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to put up I did a 3-part series with a good friend of mine, The Spiritual Journey of Truth. So I'm going to look at sharing those on there as well. So that's the kind of things where I post. If you can't get on there for some strange, reach out to Steve Adair.
So we'll point people towards wherever you are.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a long-winded. That's us now going to 3 hours.
Home. So it's where, like, your puppy takes his messages. So
yeah.
You should have her own, Facebook website, whatever, by now.
Yeah.
So we'll point it towards that, and we'll put the details underneath the video or within.
Fabulous.
Because it's going to be on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
So I will say, if there's anything that you wouldn't like us to share, or you wouldn't people for this to be public, just please let us know, and we'll edit it out.
Absolutely.
Because our idea is that these videos are available as much as we can for everybody to use for themselves and also to share with other people. So that's how we feel we can be of service.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And also we would like to tell you that next week on our 9th episode, we're having somebody that is coming to play. He's coming to play. So we're having
Nick Bottini.
That's the one. So Nick Bottini has trained with me for several years, and so he's a musician. He's a really good musician. He's a multi instruments sort of musician. So he's mastered many amazing things. Then, so we also went to a part where put together to mentor. We're doing like a mentoring course together, and we were co-mentoring. So I sent a message to him, and he's like, I'm in Moscow. I think it was Moscow. Okay, so it was Russia. Okay, so it may have not been Moscow. It wasn't Russia. So, oh, you're in Russia. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm visiting my wife's family. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I'm going to give up my job. And he was like the head of music in one like really good like school in, you know, London, super cool salary. All right then. And I'm writing a book. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm writing a book. Okay. Can I send you some pages? Yeah, of course you can. And boom, like it was. So he started writing a book for musicians from this understanding, and how he saw that going back to that, just play, you know, like when you give a toddler a trumpet or like the first keyboard, and they're just like bling 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 bling. They just don't care about playing Mozart or Beethoven, and you know, unless they're Beethoven or Mozart. But you know, but so that is what Nick saw for himself, and he had it clear as day that had to go on that way and start serving other people. And so he's coming next week. We'll tell you if it's actually Wednesday or Thursday. We haven't sort of like, because it was Thursday originally. We'll let you know. But he's coming here. His book went to be a bestseller book on Amazon, so that's brilliant. And he's done amazingly. So we're really looking forward.
Yeah. It's going to be an absolute treat
to just play. And it was
and
lovely.
He does play.
So thank you so much for being here, and we're looking forward to seeing you again. So if you want to see any of the other videos, you can go to How to Connect with Humans on Facebook. Even if you type that on YouTube, you will find us, or any of our names.
Yeah, you can search for us on Facebook as well. And if you do have problems finding any of the videos, we can point you in the right direction.
So, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. You've been absolutely amazing.
Yes,
I'm really looking forward to seeing you. And please get in contact with us if you want to ask any questions, or just you just want to keep in touch. Okay. Lots of love.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Take care.
Yeah.
You take care.
Bye bye.